for coming tonight. I know we all have very busy schedules, so I appreciate you taking the time to be here. Tonight we were going to be discussing financial planning, and this event is going to be co-hosted by our residence committee and the committee for early career physicians. Although I think it's a wonderful topic, will apply to all of us because we could always use a refresher. We have the Wharton Wealth Planning company here with us today. They're going to be talking about how to review asset protection, retirement savings, and also some personal finance strategies. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank our wonderful PRS Platinum sponsors for this event. Tonight we're joined by Rich Stegano. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But I would invite him to say a few words if you would like to now.
Hi there, Doctor. Yeah, hi. Thanks, everybody. My name is Rich Stegano with PRMS. For those who don't know, we're a psychiatry design, malpractice, and risk management insurance program. So we're pleased to be, a platinum partner of New York County Psych Society. We've been so for a while. Just some brief information of what we got going on. On March 1, we're having a webinar called Success, which talks about contract negotiation. And it's going to feature discussion not by me, but by an actual attorney, a health law attorney, who will be talking about how the right contract can further set up your financial future. We won't get into the finances. That's what this event is for. But I think it might go hand to hand a little bit. I'll put in the chat area a link for those who want to go to the complimentary webinar. And for any residents, the program is really great for residents, fellows, et cetera, who are deciding to start a practice. Speaking of residents, we do provide complimentary risk management resources, and there's a library of articles and stuff. They usually are reserved for our insured policyholders, but we do make it available to our residents. It's on our website. It's a real long thing, so I'll put that in the chat as well for any folks who want to register and access that kind of info. And finally, for those who are familiar with our referral donation program, if a psychiatrist is referred to our program, whether or not they buy the insurance, the referring psychiatrist can have a donation in their name to any organization, such as New York County. And for the month of February, we're doubling our donations to $100 per referral. And it's referrer's choice. So take advantage of that if you'd like. So I appreciate it, and have a good meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rich, so much. And the event on March 1st sounds like it'll be a wonderful follow-up to tonight. Without further ado, I'll pass it along back to Dr. Smalls-Monty to introduce our speakers for tonight.
So today we have two speakers joining us. We have Mr. David Rosenstock, who will be giving a presentation about financial planning, followed by Dr. Swati Shabali, who is one of our panelists to speak and answer all the questions from a doctor's perspective that many of our attendees may have. So David Rosenstock, CFP, is a certified financial planner and the director and founder of Wharton Wealth Planning. He earned an MBA from the Wharton School of Business and a BS in Economics from Cornell University. Wharton Wealth Planning is an independent fiduciary investment advisory firm that serves clients with their retirement planning, investment management, and cash flow needs on a virtual Zoom basis, as well as in person. David has over 25 years of experience in professional finance and started his career as an analyst at Goldman Sachs. As an independent wealth advisor, David's firm can choose from any product that is available based on what they believe is best for clients. His philosophy is that independent, fee-only fiduciary advice yields the best financial solutions. David has contributed to articles on investing and financial planning for Forbes, Yahoo Finance, Fortune Magazine, MarketWatch, MSN, ETF Trends, Morningstar, Physician on Fire, and GeoBanking and Go Banking Rates, and was a guest on the Retirement Wisdom podcast. He has also served as an experienced volunteer at many nonprofit organizations in his community, including the Police Athletic League and a local food delivery service for the homebound. Dr. Swati Shivali is a clinical assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry at NYU. She is currently the co-director of the Public Psychiatry Fellowship. Prior to her work at NYU, she did a forensic fellowship at Emory University and also specialized in women's mental health. We are so happy to have her joining us here today. She is a physician with a lot of interest and passion in personal finance and planning, and we are excited to have both of our speakers today. So without further ado, we'll have Mr. Rosenstock present at this time.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Dr. Smalls-Monte. Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Rosenstock, Director and Founder of Wharton Wealth Planning. Thanks a lot for zooming in tonight. In this presentation, I'm going to outline some steps that you could take to reduce unexpected risks and maximize your personal finances that will be important for the longer-term success of your future and your practices. I'll also include some year-beginning strategies that you can use as we start 2023. At Wharton Wealth Planning, as an independent fee-only advisor, we don't restrict ourselves to working with any specific products, so we can choose from any products that are available based on what's in the best interest of the client. As a fiduciary advisor, we don't earn investment commissions on the products we use to help people implement their investments, and all of our advice is meant to maximize our client's financial future. Depending on what's in the best interest of a client, we can work on an hourly basis or a project or fee financial plan basis. Every day, I really try to think about concepts like freedom, safety, and security, so these things don't have to be stressful later on in life for clients. Now let's get to the slides. Okay, so over my career, I've collectively analyzed, traded, and managed billions of dollars in asset categories, including stocks, bonds, and other investments. Lots more background, including media articles, could be found on our website. As questions arise during the presentation, I'll ask that you use the chat function or save your questions until the end of the presentation when there'll be a Q&A. You can also email me your questions at david@whartonwealthplanning.com, and I can respond after the presentation if that's preferable to you. Okay, now let's get to the presentation here. So today we'll discuss investment planning and strategies, asset protection strategies, estate planning, and other risk management steps you could take to safeguard the future of your practice and your family. I'll also talk briefly about the impact that some of the new retirement legislation recently passed will have on your investment and retirement planning strategies. These topics are particularly relevant as because of all the increased challenges that have been caused from the COVID pandemic, this has been a very stressful period to be a psychiatrist. For many, becoming a psychiatrist is a commitment to care and transforming the lives of your patients. On a daily basis, you may prescribe, direct, administer psychotherapeutic treatments or medications to treat mental, emotional, or behavioral disorders. The daily and routine tasks and responsibility of psychiatrists, however, can be very challenging and often involve a wide range of patients and functions, including the administrative aspect of running a business. So when you end the workday with your patients and walk out the door, you might not have a lot of time left to give to other aspects of your life. Focusing on personal finance issues and topics likely doesn't seem like a priority when you're in that moment. I realize psychiatrists spend so much of their time helping others, but it's important to take care of yourself also, so that then you can take care of others. Surveys and focus groups conducted have uncovered challenges many medical professionals face when it comes to planning for retirement. For example, 61% of those surveyed say they do not have time to focus on securing their own retirement because of other time-consuming problems. Just 6% have indicated they feel knowledgeable about investing. So the quick backdrop is the Federal Reserve recently hiked the benchmark federal funds rate to around the 4.75% level. which is the highest level since 2008, as inflation has been running at a 40-year high. So as many probably have seen more than they would have liked on the news and in their portfolios, the markets have reacted accordingly, and there's been some fairly large declines. In 2022, the classic 60-40 portfolio had its worst performance in the last 100 years. Valuations fell below their 25-year average, but this has created some real opportunities because in general, as stocks and bonds fall, their future expected returns increase. So one of the best ways to avoid mistakes in financial planning is to put a plan in writing with the correct updated assumptions. It's important to test your plan using a wide range of and customize to your unique circumstances and factors. The first step in creating a personal financial plan is to evaluate your financial situation. Next, the discovery and information gathering process allows for the development of recommendations and alternatives. And finally, it's important for an advisor to work with clients to help implement those recommendations, and equally as important, monitor them sometimes on a continuous basis. So making a plan allows a decision-making process for investment strategy, taxes, estate planning, retirement, age selection. A formal financial plan could bring to light flaws in your financial situation while there's still time to take action and help prioritize what's most important. A plan equally as important can also provide peace of mind and help provide market fluctuations like the one that we saw last year from causing some panic. Interestingly, the average market prediction from analysts on Wall Street had about a 30% deviation from what actually occurred in 2022. So it's also very important to point out that there's many different types of financial advisors. And I really want to emphasize this point as you have a lot of different choices you could choose from as you're sort of thinking about the future and who you might want to work with and the type of help you might want to get or not get. So it's important for consumers to be aware that many conflicts of interest exist in the financial advisory world today. This is one of the things that I'm most surprised at when I talk to clients. Advisors who possess a fiduciary duty to their clients are required to put their clients' best interests above their own at all times. Many people are surprised to find out that this isn't an obligation required of all advisors. Most advisors aren't required to act as a fiduciary in their interactions with a client. So advisors who are not fiduciaries, they might often follow a suitability standard, but the suitability standard only requires that they give clients advice that are deemed suitable, and thus it offers fewer protections and safeguards to clients. So the basic concept around the term fee-only fiduciary is that this type of advisor can only receive compensation directly from the client for services provided. In other words, fee-only advisors don't receive sales-related compensation from their employer or third parties like fund companies. So there's no commissions, and there's really no conflicts of interest in that regard, which is really important. In this instance, fees, flat fees can take the form of an hourly rate or a project-based fee or a subscription fee, or even a percentage of assets under management if there's investment management services. And fee-only advisors can work with clients on a one-time financial planning basis or on an ongoing basis. And that will depend on really what suits the circumstances best. So when seeking wealth management strategies, I think it's just really important to bear in mind that not every firm providing financial advice is a fiduciary, and it's just important to know what questions you might want to ask. So in thinking about when creating a financial plan, you should prioritize your goals and then customize a plan which will maximize your potential to achieve those goals. You definitely want to test your plan using a wide range of assumptions. So these are all some tax-related strategies that I'm going to go through briefly in the next few minutes, and they can all be used at the year start to help reduce taxes and ultimately save money and put you on a stronger path. So regularly contributing to retirement accounts is an important component of investment planning. Whether you're self-employed or work for a private organization, there are different types of retirement plans you can start taking advantage of to prepare for your post-career life. If possible, you should maximize contributions to retirement accounts, including 401k, solo 401k, SEP IRA, Roth IRA, spousal IRA, and even backdoor IRA accounts. A good general rule is to contribute 10 to 15% of your income. Retirement accounts are important because they combine the power of compounding with the benefit of tax-deferred and in some cases even tax-free growth. So it's important to be investing correctly today, and missing out on tax-advantaged investment gains can end up becoming very expensive when it comes to your long-term future. Okay, so depending on your employment status, there's multiple ways to save for retirement. Here is a few options. If your income is earned from an employer, 401k or 403b plans are some of the options. For psychiatrists that own their own practice, you'll need to devise your own plans for saving for retirement. If your income is earned from self-employment, then a solo 401k or a SEP IRA are typical options, but be very aware of the SEP IRA. I'll discuss shortly a very common pitfall for many small business owners with respect to retirement planning and SEP IRAs. So if your employer allows for after-tax contributions, you can save up to a total of $66,000 in 2023. And the $66,000 includes all contributions, including your employers. So in very simple terms, compounding means that interest in investment returns you receive over time is reinvested so that you can earn interest on interest and profit on profits. And this will multiply your money at an accelerated rate. So this compounding illustration is meant to demonstrate this. As you can see here, in this instance, a 25-year-old started contributing $500 per month until retirement. A 35-year-old contributes $500 per month, and a 45-year-old contributes $500 per month. Now, the magic of compounding here shows that for the person that started early, really took advantage of the different retirement savings vehicles that are out there and investing properly, ended up earning 1.3 million approximately at age 65, versus the person that started around 45 years old. They ended up with a little shy of $250,000. So you could see compounding is really a very powerful force, and I don't think anybody should really overlook that when possible. So equally as important, you really want to consider the sequence in which you invest in retirement accounts. So when possible, you want to max out your 401k or SEP IRA or solo 401k each year, and then accounts such as a Roth IRA or a backdoor Roth IRA, and then last, your taxable account. So here's just a quick diagram depicting that sequence. Now, there were some new retirement legislation that was just passed right at the end of last year by the Biden administration. And so here are some of the main provisions to be aware of. The age at which you now need to start taking required minimum distributions increases from 73 to 73 in 2023, and to 75 all the way into the future in 2033. There's also larger catch-up contribution options for those nearing retirement. Provisions make it easier for employers to provide matches to their employees. RMDs, required minimum distributions on Roth 401ks, are going to be removed in 2024. So that's an interesting long-term opportunity for people that are doing retirement planning. And then for people that have kids or have spent time with education planning, there's going to be some penalty-free rollovers that you can make from 529 plans, there will be some restrictions, and I'll get into that a little bit more. So a solo 401k plan, it's a traditional 401k plan covering a business owner with no employees, or that person and only his or her spouse. So anyone who generates net profits from a sole proprietorship, LLC, or other business organization can open a solo 401k as long as they have no employees aside from their spouse. The advantage of a solo 401k is it offers high saving limits and tax advantages. They allow you to contribute to the plan as both the employer and the employee. And so this ultimately allows you for a greater business deduction and greater tax deductions on your personal taxes. So that's a really important thing. But hiring just one employee for your business in the future beyond your spouse would eliminate the solo 401k as an option. So there's a lot of details and rules around this plan. So please reach out if you have any questions surrounding that. For a SEP plan, it's an IRA for the self-employed with small businesses. Unlike the IRA you may know about, this one has much higher contribution limits. In 2023, you can contribute up to 25% of your compensation, or $66,000, whichever is greater. So quickly, there's also another plan for retirement, a Roth IRA. It's an individual retirement account that offers tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals in retirement. So as long as you don't exceed the IRS's income limits, you can contribute the maximum annual amount to a Roth IRA. For 2023 tax years, that's $6,500 or $7,500 if you're age 50 or older. These plans are often very easy to set up as well. So high income professionals often don't qualify to make Roth contributions. So they could pursue backdoor Roth IRAs, and these allow you to make non-deductible contributions and then convert them to a Roth IRA. And they have this particular type of account has a really big impact on retirement, because when you're pulling your money out, you don't have to pay any taxes on it. And that's a pretty powerful concept. So if you have an existing IRA, it might not be prudent to complete backdoor Roth IRAs each year because of the tax code. You might end up paying some pro rata gains on some of your retirement accounts each year. So that's something to really be mindful of. A solo 401k plan might be a better option than the SEP IRA, depending on your circumstances. So it's just important to make sure you compare and contrast those two plans if you're in that position where you're self-employed with your own practice. Spousal IRAs are another type of account you should consider. A spousal IRA permits a spouse who doesn't work or earn income to fund an individual retirement account. You definitely want to understand the rules behind this and how income thresholds affects tax deductions. The rules are definitely complex, and what you do depends on a variety of factors that I could brief you on if interested. I know everyone today likely has a different situation, so I won't get further into the weeds on this. For your children's education, to increase your tax efficiency and save at tax time, you can use dependent care accounts and establish 529 education savings accounts. A 529 plan can be used to pay for college, kindergarten through 12th grade tuition, apprenticeship programs, and student loan repayments. My wife and I funded these for our children, and it's definitely worked out very nicely. One of the great things about the 529 plan is you contribute the money and it grows, and when you pull it out, you don't have to pay taxes on the gains. So that just means more for your kids' education. Now, the new retirement legislation, which I just mentioned, it's also known as Secure Act 2.0. It does have an impact on 529 plans. Starting in 2024, you can make penalty-free transfers to retirement accounts from your 529 plan. In the past, you couldn't do that, and you might have had to pay a penalty to get whatever money you didn't use out of the 529 plan. And now you can actually roll it over. So there's a $35,000 lifetime cap on transfers to a Roth IRA and some other rules. And I could get more into the weeds on that if anybody's interested, but I don't want to spend too much time. Also, I would add another type of account to consider is a custodial account if you have children. These accounts can allow parents and or grandparents to start investing for a child today. And they're often taxed at a low kiddie tax rate for the first $2,500 of earnings in 2023. So HSAs, you should always contribute to accounts to manage medical expenses such as HSAs and FSAs. Based on your areas of expertise, you're all likely very familiar with these types of accounts and how they can interact with health plans. Health savings accounts offer a triple tax benefit, and this makes them one of the tax code's most tax-favored savings vehicles. So as you put money into the health savings account, the money that you're putting in doesn't get taxed. If you invest the money in the health savings account, the gains don't get taxed. And then when you withdraw the money, the withdrawals don't get taxed. So this makes them a really fantastic account to save for the future. One thing I think a lot of people overlook is don't forget to invest the money and if possible, leave it in longer term because and just use a taxable account such as your bank account to pay medical expenses. This way you'll get the full benefit of the health savings account, which can really add up to a lot of money when you factor in compounding over time. I think it's also very important, I'll touch on briefly, to focus on taxable brokerage accounts. Because I think the risk that you take definitely has to be smart and calculated risk. And that usually means being broadly diversified. Based on your relatively high tax bracket, investments need to be tax sensitive. There's numerous strategies to help you save money at tax time. You want to really keep your turnover low in your taxable accounts and keep tax inefficient investments in retirement accounts, not in taxable accounts. I'm reminded of a client account I was working on, and there was a very high turnover strategy that an advisor was managing in a taxable account, and that was resulting in significant increased taxes, which was totaling almost $100,000 of additional taxes per year coming from the investment portfolio. So you really want to be mindful of these things and not overlook that sort of situation. You also want to avoid holding on to underperforming investments because you may have had them a long time and just become a little emotionally attached or stop paying attention to them. Using tax loss harvesting in these instances could be a really good strategy. Also, you should always try to maximize charitable contribution deductions if you're interested in making those. And one way to do this is to select highly appreciated assets when contributing to charitable causes. This can reduce your tax bill and increase your deduction. There's plenty of other strategies here to discuss further depending on specific situations. I think it's also important to really try not to pay attention to stock prices every single day. Studies have shown that short-term reactions to market news can cost investors up to 30 to 40% of their expected returns. So when you're done with a long, stressful day, the last thing you want to do is think about something else stressful like the economy and the stock market, including your personal finances. So one of the reasons to do a financial plan is to make sure your investments and your current course is correct for your personal circumstances and needs. There's a risk tolerance and investment horizon are factors that need to be considered to determine an appropriate portfolio. It could be necessary to perform annual or semi-annual reviews to monitor the portfolio and rebalance based on individual needs and goals and objectives. But you definitely want to take a long-term view that enables your money to compound over time. Financial surveys have shown medical professionals on average tend to be fairly risk adverse. However, if you have a long-term horizon until retirement, you're in a good position to take on calculated risk And the good news is that you can manage investment risk based on how and where you invest your money. So there's a very wide range of strategies that you could choose from, ranging from aggressive to conservative. And the right selection will depend on individual and personal circumstances. And you really want to find the right balance between safety and growth. Safety often comes at the price of reduced return potential and erosion of value due to inflation. And on the other hand, if you invest too heavily in growth investments, your risk might be heightened. So some quick things to focus on when you're looking at risk management and investments are asset allocation and diversification, tax efficiency, risk reward, and cost effectiveness. A financial plan can help you uncover areas of risk and opportunity. So here's a couple of quick common investment portfolio problems and then some solutions. So if your portfolio might be over concentrated in growth stocks or technology stocks, for the long term, I think it's important to change allocation and add value stocks. Ultimately, this is going to result in improved diversification and a better risk reward profile over the course of time. I think a lot of portfolios might have seen that last year. If you have a lot of capital gains coming from investment turnover in your portfolio, I definitely recommend and like to use tax efficient vehicles to reduce taxes. And so this is going to allow you to maintain market exposure, allow your money to grow, but just reduce your taxes. So let's talk quickly now about some asset protection practices. Psychiatry has helped people for generations to protect and improve their health, but protecting your business and financial and personal assets is also an important part of any healthcare strategy. Malpractice insurance is always important. With respect to malpractice insurance, there's three main questions to ask. What are your current coverage limits? Is your policy occurrence coverage or claims made coverage? And are legal costs included in the limits of liability, or will they be paid in addition to policy limits? If you're part of a larger plan, there might not be much you can do to change the answers, but I think it's important to know. So malpractice definitely serves as a safeguard for the future. And if your job changes or circumstances change, you definitely want to make sure that you review that insurance. Another area to talk about quickly is disability insurance. Earnings are your biggest asset, depending on the stage of your career. So disability insurance replaces part of your income, usually around 60%, when an illness or injury is ongoing or permanent. You want to update your disability insurance to incorporate and protect your current salary if your salary increases. All disability is not created equally, and so now is a good time to check your disability definition. Some policies may pay benefits only if you can't perform any work at all, rather than being unable to do the specific type of work you currently do. Okay, now let's talk about umbrella insurance. If you're a psychiatrist who has a notable amount of assets accumulated, an umbrella policy is definitely in your best interest. This policy is separate from your professional liability coverage. Your policy will protect you if you're sued or if you cause someone injury. This policy should be viewed as a secondary policy or backup to your traditional homeowners, auto, and renters insurance. Each state has its own exclusive rules, and those should dictate your asset protection plan. Umbrella protection is the easiest way to add liability coverage for you personally at a very low cost. If you're self-employed, the legal formation you use to set up your business will be very important as to how you can protect your business and assets. If you're concerned about protecting your wealth, one thing you can also do is use a limited liability company for risky assets. The most common one we come across is rental properties. Another topic to talk about with respect to asset protection is joint protection insurance. By adding a joint owner to your home deed, your bank accounts, and investment accounts, you're adding an extra layer of protection. The protection comes from you not owning the assets by yourself. I apologize, my voice is going a little bit for some reason here. Okay, quick story to start this section on estate planning. When James Gandolfini died suddenly of a heart attack in 2013, it left his family, friends, and fans stunned and saddened with his passing. The late James Gandolfini left his heirs an estimated $70 million. However, because of poor estate planning, his heirs may have owed over $30 million in taxes. Unfortunately, James Gandolfini didn't take proper steps to ensure that the IRS would not be the main beneficiary to his assets. So one of the main goals of estate planning, in addition to minimizing estate taxes, is giving the surviving family members and beneficiaries less stress and some privacy. Estate planning will ensure that your physical assets, investments are transferred to your beneficiaries with minimal legal and tax complications. To ensure that your estate does not go through probate, you need to create a will and consider the option of using a trust. With a revocable living trust, you can distribute your property the way you see fit and maintain control over your property during your lifetime and keep your estate plan out of the public spotlight for everyone to access. This is also known as a pour-over will, since it pours all the assets into the trust. Also, remember to list and, if needed, update your beneficiaries and contingent beneficiaries, as your will not govern these assets, and that can cause you and your heirs problems. Life and disability insurance can be critical. On average, you might start your career with loans. Your first life insurance policy should likely not be a permanent insurance product. With financial success over time, you might be able to eliminate some of your life and disability coverage, saving significant annual premiums. Different types of options you could choose from. Term helps meet temporary needs. Permanent life is for more of a estate planning strategy. It's just important to know the advantages and disadvantages to both. I personally like term because it's less expensive, and I think that's important. Before we close, I'll just mention quickly, like James Gandolfini, Aretha Franklin, Prince, Sonny Bono, Michael Jackson, they all failed to do proper estate planning, and that cost their estates and their heirs significant tax bills and likely a lot of unnecessary stress. So estate planning allows you to make decisions that your loved ones can carry out following your legal directions. Everyone should have an advanced healthcare directive and a power of attorney. These are key legal documents that will help resolve what should happen in the event you become very ill or incapacitated. Leaving assets to adult children is also a part of financial planning that needs to be thought out or managed. People understand why minor children and young adults shouldn't inherit property outright, but sometimes the same might be beneficial for adult children. So it's just important to understand the circumstances and what your children's relationship and ability to manage money is. Estate liquidity, you can use insurance as a way to create liquidity for your estate. And guardianship for minors is very important. Planning for the care of children in case of unfortunate circumstances is one of the most important things a parent can do. So having the guardian clearly spelled out in your will is going to allow your child to adjust as quickly as possible. And if you don't appoint one, the court will appoint one for you should something happen to you. So just in closing, I think it's important to remember to review your estate plan annually when changes occur. This can include marriage or divorce, birth or adoption, death of a spouse, inheritance of assets, and changes in beneficiaries as well. So I hope you found this webinar helpful. My voice is definitely going, unfortunately, but I do have kind of try to answer a question or two, and then maybe if anybody has additional questions beyond that, they could just send those to me via email, because unfortunately it's my vocal cords are not cooperating. Okay, I got one question on email here. What are the steps to set up an HSA plan for my family? Okay, so to set up an HSA plan, you need to make sure you're enrolled in a high deductible medical plan. So HSAs go for high are used with high deductible plans, and FSAs are typically used with low deductible plans. And so to set up an HSA, if you're self-employed, you basically set up the HSA, and you can contribute for 2023 up to $7,750. And you could fund those contributions monthly, or you could fund them up front. If you're a small business owner, it's important not to overlook the HSA, as it is an important tax advantage savings vehicle. And it provides you with a lot of deductions at tax time. So a family that's in a higher tax bracket could save about several $1,000s per year on their taxes by using one of these plans. But when you're also, it's important to note when you're taking distributions, they have to be qualified. So the money that you pull from the HSA has to go towards qualified expenses. So I hope that answers that question.
And at this time, I wanted to also bring Dr. Shivali back to answer any questions that people might have from a physician's perspective as well. And Dr. Shivali, do you mind telling us a little bit more about your journey into getting into your interest in finances and discovering things on your own as well? That would be very interesting.
So gladly. I just want to do a quick room check. Is everyone still with us?
Here.
Awesome. And you don't have to turn on your video necessarily, but it would be nice to see your faces. I'm Swati Shivle. I'm a forensic and reproductive psychiatrist. Until recently, I was the chief at one of the forensic inpatient units at Bellevue Hospital, which was my first job right after fellowship. More recently, I split my time between a psychiatric CPEP here again at Bellevue Hospital, some inpatient work, and I also co-direct the New York City Health and Hospitals NYU Public Psychiatry Leadership Program. So this program was formerly the NYU Public Psychiatry Fellowship, and it's meant for early and mid-career psychiatrists who find themselves being very committed and dedicated to working with people living with serious mental illness who are essentially underserved, but aren't quite sure about how to bring innovation to these populations. And as we all know, community psychiatry is just one of those places that's always hurting for resources, for money, for personnel. And so sooner or later, well-intentioned psychiatrists are faced with the choice of having to continue a poorly paid job and pouring out of empty cups, or to switch to a cash-only practice. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I find it really difficult to stomach the idea that one has to choose something so central to their sense of fulfillment based on a financial decision, and it truly doesn't have to be this way. And so I'm really excited to be part of this discussion today and to help around with the process, because honestly, it seems very overwhelming, but taking some very basic, like 5 basic steps to begin with, without really thinking much else about it, will already get you set up towards being more financially healthy. And why should you listen to me? Well, I'm 6 years out of training. I do not come from money. I did not marry into money. I did have a lot of financial discipline growing up, as one does when there's not much to go around. And I was new to the American financial system. So most of what I learned was actually just in the last 5 years. And yet I'm about a third of the way to being financially independent and retiring early. And Dr. Smalls-Manty can speak to this. It's not like I'm truly living like a resident, but it's possible. And that's the point, is the biggest barrier to being able to do this as physicians, I don't know about the rest of you, but in my lived experience, was that every time I would try to dip my feet in the financial pool, I would just be overcome with this extreme fear and dread, and the anxiety would paralyze me. And I remember my brother trying to talk at me about, picking and choosing some retirement contributions, and my eyes would just glaze over, and I would just sign up for an extra shift, because my idea was, well, you know what, I'll just make more money. And I was working about 100 hours a week, and I'm not sure that that's how any of us really want to live, but I'm also certain most of us that's the only thing we know to do. So yeah, that's a pretty long-ish introduction, but hopefully you go through the primer. And the reason it's super simple is because I'm hoping to reach those of you who are at the very start of this journey, because I think that's the hardest part. Yeah, with that, if any of you have any questions for me or David, please go on ahead.
And we'll be sure to send the primer around after this program, and along with David's slides as well, if that's okay.
Yeah.
But did anyone have any questions?
Someone just asked me, what are those 5 main things you've learned? So I actually put them in a primer, but if I had to paraphrase, there's about 12 points in there, so I lied. But the 5 things are: take deep breaths and look at your paycheck. Like, really just look at it and read it. It is a hard thing to do, but you really need to read what it says in every column, because there's a difference between what you're told you're making, what you actually take home, what you're deducting. And it's important to familiarize yourself with what your take-home pay is. The second thing to know is to have some way of knowing how much money comes in and knowing how much money goes out. My father used to do this in a ledger every single day. Every 50, I guess, pence would be the equivalent. He would write it down. I don't know what value there is to doing that, except to being extremely obsessive compulsive. It doesn't have to be quite that granular, but there needs to be some rough idea you have about how much are you spending on the Seamless, on the Uber, because it's entirely possible that that number may be completely out of control, and it doesn't have to be, or it's actually a lot smaller than you thought. And so you have more ability to invest that money. And the third thing you need to look at is, do you have any credit cards or any modes of payment where just forgetting to make those basic payments is actually costing you more money, because you're paying late fees, things like that. And how much of this can you automate? Because as a physician, anytime you use the excuse of not having enough time, you're probably right. But there's a simple way around it. So first one is look at your paycheck. The second one is have some rough estimate of how much you're bringing home from all sources and how much you're spending in all the ways that you do. And then look at your credit card statements and see if there are any fees that you can automate so that you don't have to then pay extra fees. And then number 5 is just reminding yourself that you are a physician. You have done way harder things than learning about finances. And there are a lot of physicians out there who have done this before us. It can be done. And so you just look for things that feel compatible with what you feel like reading, and you break it down into as small a chunk as needed and just read about it without thinking that you have to immediately apply it to your financial life. And before you know it, you will fire your financial advisor. Sorry, David. Although I have to say, David is a fiduciary fee-only wealth planner, which is kind of awesome. I was very impressed that at Joy I was able to find one of those in New York City. So
there is a question here about investments outside of traditional mutual funds and other stocks, real estate, et cetera, worthwhile time frame, et cetera. So one thing with respect to investing is, if you're going to need the money within 2 or even 3 years, I generally recommend, there's not a lot to do. You can actually invest in like CDs or something like that, and those are very safe, and up to $250,000 per account per institution is actually guaranteed by the U.S. government. Beyond $250,000 is actually not guaranteed. But so if you're going to need the money in the short term, you want to be very safe, like a CD. Do not try to ever time any type of investment, whether it's an alternative investment outside of the traditional, bonds and stocks or other. In general, sometimes people ask me about non-traditional investments, and I like to stick with traditional bonds and stocks. I feel over the course of time, they significantly outperform alternatives like commodities, gold, or lots of other types of investments. And, I think that's really important, because when you're thinking about compounding and you're thinking about a long-term approach, really trying to maximize where your money is going and create a good asset allocation strategy and diversification strategy for yourself and risk management. Those are all things that are going to help you. Alternative investments, outside of the more traditional ones, I find carry a lot of idiosyncratic risks. So very specific risks that you're not going to find in larger public companies. And so for those reasons, I steer my clients away from them. I've heard a lot of bad stories. I've definitely had experience with alternatives in the past, just from some exposure to being in the financial industry. But I do not like to invest in those, and happy to talk further on a case-by-case basis, because there really are a very wide range of options out there.
yeah, and I just want to add, David actually answered this question in detail earlier, which I really appreciated. I think the answer comes from writing down your financial goals. What is it that you are trying to make money for? Is it for a secure retirement? Is it to buy a second vacation home? And then the second piece is, how much time do you have? So if you're trying to do this by yourself and you have a full-time physician job and a family, I'm a huge fan of passive investing, which is what David was sort of talking about. I mean, I think it's a little bit more active than passive, but set it and forget it. And being lazy with your money is actually one of the smartest things you can do, as long as you do a few things with it. But if you have extra time, or if you have play money, then, the world is your oyster. The question is, are you prepared to lose most of it? And what are you hoping to gain from all those alternate investments?
There is a question here. Can you comment on online trust sites? And I'm not 100% sure specifically what that's referring to. So if there's a little bit more information there, I could definitely try to give a response. But I'm not sure what the exact details of that question are.
While we wait on someone to maybe clarify that question, one question I have is, say you have only about, and for either of you, a little bit of money, maybe you don't think it's enough to divide between two places. Would it be better to invest in a retirement account or a brokerage account? Say you have maybe $250 or $500 as a resident starting out from an extra moonlighting shift a month or something like that. Maybe you can't, maybe at your residency, you do have the opportunity to put in a retirement account, but you're just not sure where to start. Do you have any preference or idea of which one to start off with first?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I'm going to give you a general answer, but in general, one of the things that as a certified financial planner that I try to really do is really understand the client's sort of situation and a lot of their circumstances and goals. So if you might need the money on a shorter term basis or on a medium term basis, well in advance of retirement, then I would say definitely, keep it out of the retirement accounts. If you can take advantage of retirement accounts, you're going to save money at tax time right away by doing that. And longer term, you're going to really enable your money to compound and grow for you so that when you do hit your retirement years, you're in good shape. So, it is based on a lot on personal circumstances, but in general, I like to recommend accounts such as 401ks, SEP IRAs, and solo 401ks. Contribute to those first, and then after you've sort of filled those up, then take advantage of like a Roth IRA account, which is an account you pay taxes on upfront, so you don't get a deduction, but that will help you in your retirement. And then after that, I recommend the taxable brokerage accounts sort of last. Now, like I said, if you might need the money in more of a short-term basis, purchase a house in 5 or 7 years, then there's a good reason not to put it in the retirement account. So it's all based on the individual circumstances. But I think in general, in sort of getting to understand and evaluate and analyze those circumstances, you can come up with a really good strategy. And sometimes it might be put some in the retirement and put some in the other account, just depending on circumstances.
Yeah, I think if the person's actively employed with a hospital that matches any amount of money that they put into their retirement accounts, it's just a double value addition, meaning you're saving that $250, you're getting some extra money that you were leaving on the table, and you're paying less taxes when it comes time for tax season, which matters for an actively employed physician, because our salaries are going to be higher when we're working versus when we're retired and we're just trying to like draw down from our savings. And so for those reasons, I think the general answer would be, I 100% agree with David. Your retirement funds first, but again, it so completely depends on how old are you and what do you need the money for, when do you need it. So, but if all you have time to think about is, should I sign up for a new brokerage account or should I just put money into something that sounds boring? Boring is the way to go.
Thank you. And then there's a question in the chat as well. Does anyone have advice for late starters? Unfortunate financial situations have caused this 50-year-old to just start saving, and I know I'm not alone in this regard.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I could definitely answer that. There are strategies that you can take advantage of. There's something called catch-up contributions. So once you pass a certain age, you can often contribute more to plans, to retirement plans, than you would if you were at a younger age. So I definitely recommend taking advantage of those types of advantages if you can. Just because 50, there's still plenty of time to people are living into their early 90s and beyond. So there's plenty of time to take advantage of compounding still at that age. And so I definitely recommend doing so. I think it's really important to understand your risk profile also, as generally as people sort of move along the age spectrum, the risk profile often becomes a little bit more conservative, because you're getting to a point where you might be nearing closer to retirement, so you're taking losses, paper losses on your assets is going to have more of an impact than if you have a much longer term horizon. So I think it's really important just to plan, understand what your goals are, understand what your expenses might be in the future, and just devise a plan accordingly, because your assets are going to end up playing a significant role in your retirement. Now, Social Security, there's different Social Security benefits, and depending on when you claim those benefits, that's something to also be mindful of. If you wait till the end at which you can claim the benefits, you could often increase the amount that you'll receive by about 45% versus if you claim them at the beginning when you're younger. So to the extent you can wait to claim Social Security benefits, that could also be something that helps you in the future as well, just in terms of another income stream and maximizing that. I did see that the trust question got a little bit more. It says, can you comment on online trust sites, online products that allow to create a trust? So trust could be really great vehicles for estate planning. They could help protect your family. They could help reduce taxes. They could protect you from creditors. There's lots of different benefits to having a trust. And there's lots of different types of trusts as well. And so I think it's, using an online service for the trust. I'm not familiar with a lot of those services. I think it might be better to really get a referral to a trust and estate lawyer that you might really be able to trust, and really sort of get personalized attention to make sure that you're choosing the right product, that your goals are being matched correctly to the legal trust that you might end up forming. And it's very possible also that at a certain point in your life, the trust might not be as needed as other points. So the trust will really depend on how much assets you've accumulated and your goals. So unfortunately, I can't really. I can understand that they might be less expensive than other services, but I think it's just really important to do the research, make sure that if you do go with one of those options, you have a lot of confidence that you're going to be getting the right customization, the right advice, because if you choose the wrong trust, then that's not really going to end up helping you, and it can only end up costing you money and a little bit of a headache. So that's what I would say there. Sorry, I can't be more helpful on that one.
And there's another question here. Saying thanks so much for a great presentation. Can you say more on how does one qualify for a spousal IRA? Is this an option as a visa holder if one spouse is a dependent?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I would have to check into the visa question, but for spousal IRAs, basically, it will depend. There's certain phase out limits based on your adjusted gross income. And I need to look those up. Let me just see here.
In the meantime, what
Yeah.
sort of visa are you holding? An employment visa or something else? Yeah, so it's an employment-based visa. So David, for all practical purposes, it would be the same as being resident alien.
Yeah. Yeah, so for the spousal IRA, let me just see, because they changed it in 2023. Yeah, so I mean, while I'm looking it up, the exact limits for 20. Yeah, so for the spousal IRAs, it's 6,000. No, I'm sorry, it's in 2023, it is 7,500. $7,500, and so that will just depend on your tax bracket. At certain tax brackets, you're going to get phased out, and so it won't be a strategy that will be beneficial. And for some reason, I'm having a little bit of a harder time looking that up on my tablet right now. But I could get back to you.
I can speak to that as someone on a visa once upon a time. So the IRS actually and USCIS does not care if you're a visa holder or a resident or a citizen when it comes to you paying taxes. For everything else, it matters. And so in trying to save, and you can look this up on LegalZoom and things like that, or if you have an immigration attorney, certainly talk to them, but you should be able to contribute for a dependent spouse. So long as you're, legally employed and your visa is the result of your employment, all vehicles are exactly the same for you as they are for anyone else making money in the US.
Great, thank you. I guess we're nearing the end of our time today, but I wanted to give a chance for any last questions that anyone might have. And if not, I will say thank you again to David Rosenstock and Dr. Shivali for joining us today for this presentation, things I wish I had heard a lot earlier in my career and just started learning about 2-3 years ago. But a lot of the strategies that they talk to you about are important to start implementing early, like they mentioned, the power of compound interest and other things as well to alleviate stress that might come on a lot later. So thank you so much both for your insights into this and to the members of the Residence Committee for planning this event. If you're interested in joining the Resident Committee or the Minority Affairs Committee, which is also partnered with this event, please reach out and let us know. And like we said, we'll follow up with a copy of the presentation and the primer that you all can reference as well. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to both of the speakers as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you so much.
It was great presenting today. Thank you.
Thank you for joining.